Yes, welcome everybody. This is the program which we are going to celebrate the life of Mahmood Jamal, who are our long friend, comrade, and he was helpful for us for a lot of things with the part of the Third World Solidarity. And apart from Third World Solidarity, we participated in his literary activities. So I would like to request again everybody, if you can mute yourself, that will be great and helpful. And I would like to ask Mushtaq Lasharie Saab, who is the chairman of Third World Solidarity, if he can come and say some words, introductory words, and after it, invite other speakers so they can pay a tribute or express their feelings about Mahmood Jamal. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lasharie is muted.
Lasharie Saab, can you unmute yourself, please?
Sorry. Thank you, Kifale. Thank you very much, Kifale. So, can you, yes, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. It is quite difficult for me because I can't still believe that Mahmood is not with us. I've done thousands of events with Mahmood Jamal, whether it is a literary, music, film, many others. I don't even remember when I met him and how I met him, but it was many years ago. ये अयूब औलिया को जरा आप म्यूट कर दें शायद नदीम साहब, आमिर औलिया है, क्योंकि मुझे पता है कि वो बेटे के थ्रू कर रहे हैं और वो शायद म्यूट ना कर सकें. Here is Carrie. Welcome, Carrie. And I met him many years back, and then we have done a lot of work. I can tell you, each event I used to do, whether it is under Third World Solidarity or Culture House or Epic Flow, either Mahmood will come to me or I will go to him, from Chandu House to many other places where he lived for many years. He will discuss his personal issues, his personal things with me. Possibly sometimes I believe that he is not even discussed with anybody else. I think it is very difficult for me to believe that he is no more with us. And it will be very difficult for me to carry on working on the same pace, because any difficulty, as I said, whenever there was an event of Third World Solidarity, we will discuss it. He will guide me. He will even give me speeches. He has written speeches sometimes. And I think I have never met anybody more learned in poetry, in art, in culture, and a gentleman, a human being. I can't tell you more, but I'll give you just one hint. There is a woman living in London whom Mahmood was looking after for past almost 25 years. And he was giving a lot of money every month to her to just go around in his life. He was paying her mortgage as well. I know that some of the family member might not now know, but he was discussing it with me. And once his father fell ill many years back, he wanted to go to Karachi to look after his father, because Bari Mia was the only person who was looking after their father and mother both. So he came to me and he said, can you look after this lady? And I did that as long as Mahmood was there in Karachi. And when he was making his film Rehm, Ahmed Jamal, he was very concerned how she will survive. And again, I gave him this chance. And he has written a letter 1 year ago about her. And I'm going to stand with her. And I think the family, some of the family members have already offered me help, and we will continue supporting her. So I've never seen a man with that intellect, that knowledge, that depth of humanity in my life. And I have already lived 7 decades, so I have lived many and met hundreds of people. And I'm very honored to meet people like Nelson Mandela, Tony Benn, Noam Chomsky, you name the human being, but I have not seen a humble man. I tell you, just one story, and then I will invite Sajjada Asfani Saab to say, and I will be speaking again at some stage. Once people were pushing me from Bradford to invite Tony Benn. And by the way, Tony Benn has published Mahmood Jamal's favorite and my favorite, everybody's favorite poem, which I think Muhammad Sajjad will read today, You and Me. And Tony Benn was traveling with me to Bradford on the request of one of the groups in Bradford. And Mahmood asked me, can I travel with you? So my son drove. So from 12 o'clock in the day to 12 o'clock midnight, we were together with Tony Benn. And Mahmood Jamal used to say, I want to write a full book on that day. What a great man Tony Benn was. I think that was Mahmood Jamal. But I am saying that I have seen, worked, and I think done a lot of activities with Mahmood Jamal, and I have not seen anybody more intellectually strong, learned, and in all aspects, poetry, literature, culture, more than Mahmood Jamal. A great man. He has lived full life. He is no more with us, but his work will continue. I will try my best that Third World Solidarity will continue with his work with the support of all of you, wherever you are and from wherever you are joining us. Thank you very much. And can I now invite Sajjada Asfani Saab to speak about his relations and memories about Mahmood Jamal.
Thank you very much. Well, I can't remember a time in my life where I didn't actually know Mahmood. I think their family came from India to East Pakistan, which it was called then, in 1957. And I think from 1958 onwards, I got to know him really, really well then. He was like a brother to me. And I want to talk a little bit about his sporting activities. I've heard a lot of things about his poetry. And of course, I know a lot about his poetry. I also know about him as a human being because we used to speak almost every day on the phone. I knew about the woman he was looking after. He was such a humble man. All those things, he was just amazing. He was like a brother. I feel lost, somebody you speak to every day, and even for a few minutes, some of the days, and suddenly he's not there anymore. And even now, sometime when I send an email where I would have normally added Mahmood's name to it, I miss him, It's a bit like that. So he was just a remarkable sportsman. As we grew older, we had a wonderful childhood in Dhaka. Anybody who spent their childhood in Dhaka, you can ask Shah, who's there. I can see him. Hi, Shah. And then Bari, Mia, Allu. We had an absolutely wonderful childhood. We all used to stay quite close to one another. And as we went into our teens, we started playing a lot of sport. And because we went to an American school, we played some American sports like softball, which is similar to baseball, as well as basketball. And of course, cricket, we played tennis, and all these sports, Mahmood was... As we grew older, we had a wonderful childhood in Dhaka. Anybody who spent their childhood in Dhaka, you can ask Shah. That was me repeating myself. Anyway, so what I just wanted to say is that Mahmood, although he was not a very tall man, he must have been 5'7" or something at the most. He was the most amazing basketball player, which is most unusual. And I was just telling Allu today that Allu didn't even know this, that he has got the record for scoring the most number of points in a basketball game. Bari, did you know this? In Dhaka, when they were playing for Spurs, him and Nasheen and all that, he had the record for scoring the most number of points in a basketball game. Because he was such a strong man, he could jump 2 feet in the air and he would never miss a shot. He had something called a jump shot, And even his cricket, he was an absolutely fantastic cricketer. The story about a cricket team, whether you've heard or not, I know that Abdul and Bari have heard it. The MCC were coming to Dhaka to play a test match. And they were very worried about Pakistan team, was very worried about Underwood, you see. So Master Aziz, who was Salim Durrani's father, who was also the coach of the Pakistan team, he was given the job of making a dead wicket, you see. So like, in other words, a wicket in which will not take any spin from Underwood. So they made like this glass top, almost like a concrete wicket, So then the Master Aziz told the groundsman, you call Mahmood here, you see. So he called Mahmood here, beta hai ball karo. Turn the ball here. And Mahmood couldn't turn the ball. It was such a flat wicket. So Master Aziz said, Mahmood cannot turn the ball. Nobody in the world can turn the ball. So this is the kind, this is his sporting prowess as a cricketer, as a basketball player, and even as a softball player. I need to tell you, with Bari Mian, Mahmood Mian, and a few others were there in St. Joseph's. When we were 16 years old, we became the East Pakistan softball champions. You know, it's unbelievable. We had three padris playing with us who were adults, but the rest of us were all like teenagers, barely in our teens. And we were meeting teams like the American Embassy and so many other adult teams. And when this group moved on to Notre Dame College, which we all did from St. Joseph, we did the same. Because the first year we were there, we became East Pakistan champions of softball over there. So anyway, moving on from the story, Mahmood then left for London in 1967. And I was still behind in Dhaka, and I followed him in 69. And then Mahmood and I and another classmate of ours from St. Joseph's shared a flat together for 2 years in Holland Park. And before I go there, I forgot to mention that he was the top student in our class. In my class, which was the class of 64, he was the top student as well. So he was really the ultimate all-rounder, you know. Anyhow, so we were living in this flat together for 2 years. And then he taught me how to cook. So, you know, the only thing I still know how to cook, which is aloo keema matar. That's what, and he told me, so we all used to take turns, the three of us, we used to cook for, you know, and we used to eat for 2 days with pav roti and things like that. We had some really wonderful days. And then after that, I went off in 78. I spent some time in Karachi. Then I was away for 15 years. At that time, there was no email or anything like that. So I only used to see him when I used to visit London. But after I finally moved back here, after that, and especially in the last 20 years, I don't think hardly, you know, there were many days that I didn't actually talk to him about everything. We used to discuss, we were very open with each other, you know, and we used to meet for lunch, you know, once a week and things like that. And we had no secrets. Actually, we had no secrets from each other, Mahmood and myself. Some secrets that I even have from Bari, you know, Mahmood was the one guy who I trusted 1,000,000% that he would, you know. So it's a huge loss for all of us. And you know, what can I say? I really can't add any more to that. So I'll have to go now to attend a function. I will be back later, inshallah, and I hope to see the video of what everybody has to say. I hope to be back in about an hour. So thanks very much. I hope I did, you know, told you a few things that are not normally talked about him, you know, especially his sporting prowess and also his, you know, his academic prowess and things like that. We all know of him as a poet and a wonderful human being. He lived the life of a Sufi. You know, he believed in Sufism, like what coming from his ancestors, and he actually lived the life. He just didn't talk about it. That is the life he lived. He lived the life of a Sufi. That's what I think.
Thank you very much, Sajjada Asfani Saab. We will see you in about 1 hour time.
Inshallah, definitely.
And there are a lot of people who have joined us. Steve Abbott, thank you very much. Carrie Matthews, thank you very much. I will invite you after 2 speakers to speak, and then you read the poem, Carrie, which you want to read. Karis, sorry. I always miss because French names are differently written in our English, so I do. Thank you very much. Can I now invite, is Farak Dondi in? Kifale Almo is a member of Third World Solidarity from Ethiopia, and he has worked with Mahmood Jamal for many, many years. We did a lot of work on human rights, and I think he attended many of events, including last year in September when Sanam Bhutto spoke about Mahmood Jamal and family relation with the Bhutto family. So can I invite Kifale Almo, please? Kifale, are you there?
Yeah, now I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Lasharie. Yes, indeed, it is a very sudden moment for all Third World Solidarity members and for all our communities, including the Pakistani other communities around Third World Solidarity. I have a special feeling for him. I don't know why. I always, when I heard these days, I just felt a little bit different because all of us has some kind of connection with different people. So he was one of, I mean, I can't, one of my great friends. So I just say we are sorry, and we will continue to remember him, and we'll do something to remember him in third world solidarity as well. So we are very sorry. This is what I can say. Thank you, Mr. Lashari.
Thank you very much, Kifale. Another colleague of mine, Steve and Karis, I will invite you later. I've got another good friend of us who is a professor in Goldsmith University, and she is from Argentina and has been working with Third World Solidarity for past almost many decades. Professor Victoria Godard and Sandra Setley, I think both are there. So can I invite first Professor Victoria Godard?
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to join you all. I hope you don't mind if I read it, which might make it a bit long, so please interrupt me if I go on too long. But as you have said, Mushtaq, I know Mahmood Jamal through Third World Solidarity, through many events, many conversations, informal and formal meetings. And through those, I've learned to respect enormously. And of course, I'm deeply saddened by his absence amongst us. I just wanted to say a few things that I was thinking about when thinking about Mahmood Jamal. I think some of the words that came to me were passion and beauty, clarity and tolerance. Passion because of the way in which he always consistently addressed issues of social justice and inequality in the world. But at the same time, he never forgot and reminded us about what is beautiful in the world. And I think this is a really unique quality to bring, both to arts and scholarship, but also to politics. And that's reflected in these other terms, clarity and tolerance. So clarity about the objectives, clarity about the causes of injustice, what needed to be done, what needs to be done, but at the same time holding tolerance as a key value, as a cardinal point, which is crucial to something that I think he contributed to enormously, which was building bridges across all sorts of differences which are so divisive and so dangerous. I would venture to call him something some people might not like, a cultural warrior, in that I think he deeply understood the importance of culture and art in all its manifestations. And again, this is rare. So he would just as much invest his time and energy and thought in TV, in popular media, as he would in painstaking work of scholarship, yes, and intellectual rigor. And behind all of this was this project, this idea of contributing to making a better society, of being able to imagine a better society. One of the bridges that I would like to mention, because it's closer to my field of work as a university, as an academic, is a recent event that he played a fundamental part in organizing and presenting, which was in 2019, an event called Surrender, an evening of Qawwali poetry and music. And this was held at his alma mater, the University of London School of Oriental and African Studies. So what I feel Mahmood Jamal brought to his work and to his politics is a combination of a radical perspective that speaks truth to power, as us academics like to say, but there is some really resonant meaning to that, and to be faithful to what is true and what is important in life, in art, and in politics. And he was able to do this because he was what we might describe as a Renaissance man, a polymath. And other speakers have already, and we've only just started, have already addressed these multiple talents and contributions. I didn't know about his sportsmanship, so thank you for sharing that. That's another layer to add to this complex and talented person who, despite knowing him for many years, that was something I did not know about. So, you know, as this cultural warrior, he's also a translator, both literally and translating great works from Urdu into English, and having his own work translated into Turkish, for example, and other languages. And in doing so, being able to speak to a very broad community across the United Kingdom. So, for example, those of you who know the radical British Jamaican poet Linton Kwesi Johnson will probably not be surprised that he identified in Mahmood Jamal's work what he calls a special voice, right? And I would like to briefly quote an Australian publisher who comments in relation to Mahmood Jamal's work. And I'm reading, Mahmood Jamal's poetry speaks of division and its consequences. From the divided self to the divided world, his lines traverse the actualities of separation and intimate the possibilities of reconciliation. And I think he puts it very well, the capacity to be sort of analytical and aesthetic and looking forward, always looking forward to a better world. He continues, we live in an age when poetry needs its politics, though we should never forget that politics always needs its poetry. Jamal supplies both in full measure. And I think I can't think of a better way of illustrating this and reminding us of this than in quoting from some excerpts from one of Mahmood Jamal's own poems, Silence. And it starts saying, let my silence speak out through these words. I won't read the whole poem because I know a lot of people are wanting to speak. He continues, the silence of deep deserted eyes and pitch black tears, the silence of moonlight over the shanty towns, the silence inside a gun's mouth when the bullet has flown, the silence of a child's twisted belly and his old eyes. And it goes on, and then he ends saying, so that the dark can be discovered, so that the silenced are not forgotten, let my silence be loud. So with that, I would just like to share with you a thank you to Mahmood Jamal.
Thank you very much, Professor Victoria. Is Sandra with you, or Sandra is on her computer? Sandra, are you there?
If she is not, I do have a summary of what she would like to share with you.
Could you correct your computer, please? Because we are recording, your sound as your photo has gone down. So if you can,
mine
a little bit better. Thank you, Victoria. You can read it for us.
Okay, so Sandra, let me just pull this up for me. So Sandra would like to share some thoughts, remembering some of the very early meetings when Third World Solidarity was the seed of a project in a church hall meeting where Mahmood Jamal recited poetry. That was one of her first memories of knowing, of meeting this man. And after he'd become a member of Third World Committee, she remembers how his continuous presence, his intellectual input in various meetings, for example, also these informal conversations in Knightsbridge in a cafe, his humor, right? And his connections with other colleagues like Tony Cuthbert, who was also a filmmaker. So how he was able to bond with different people on so many different levels. And thinking about the film aspect, Sandra was recalling a rather wonderful incident, although it didn't have an entirely happy ending, which was that at a poetry reading at a festival in Morocco, Mahmood Jamal had heard Francis Ford Coppola speak. And Coppola was speaking about mercy. you know, in the sort of Shakespearean, the quality of mercy. And this struck him as intimately connected to his own philosophy of the world. And so he and Sandra worked together to connect with Coppola on one of Sandra's trips to California in order to make that connection, build a bond and an endorsement for Mahmood's work. Unfortunately, coincided with the forest fires in California, so that was not accomplished. That was a mission that was not accomplished. The other thing that Sandra was remembering with great affection was an invitation to Mahmood to go to attend the Fez festival, the Sufi festival, where Mahmood presented his work. And Mushtaq, I know you've attended that festival on numerous occasions. I was lucky to go as well with Third World Solidarity, and we know it to be a wonderful coming together of like-minded persons and souls. I think, let me just make sure I'm not leaving anything out. I think that is it. She just wanted to share with you how much she's enjoyed working with Mahmood over the years. And in particular, she was remembering of the special dinner that Mushtaq organized in 2020 with great fondness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Victoria Goddard. Just to tell you that Sandra is a journalist who has visited Pakistan many times, and she is American but has lived over many years here, and her partner, as Professor Victoria said, Tony Cuthbert, was also part of Third World Solidarity with us. And this event of Morocco, I attend this sacred music festival every year for past many, many years. It started in 1991, first Gulf War, and it is still going on in Morocco. And it is something which is amazing. I will recommend everybody and anybody to come. And the event she just mentioned was a forum which was recommended by Third World Solidarity, and they adopted it, because it used to be only music.
Right.
And we said, please do a 1 or 2 days event in which you speak about, they said, we don't want to bring in politics. And we said, no, you can keep the politics out, but you can bring in any theme. And the year when Mahmood Jamal visited was the theme of love. And I still remember he spoke about everything. So Mahmood was part of us on many, many great events, and we will continue remembering him. Can I now ask the family and a few other friends to speak, including Shah? But first of all, I will invite Ahmed Jamal to speak, and then he will invite other Humaira and Bari Mia and Shah and Farooq Dodi. And at 5:30, a friend of us, Hugh Godecker, is going to sing with his guitar a song for Mahmood Jamal, because he attended a couple of events of Mahmood Jamal's poetry events, and 1 or 2 he sang songs, and Mahmood really loved it. So he will sing a song at about 5:30 when Ahmed Jamal ends speaking the family members and other friends. Ahmed Jamal.
Can I remind other participants, if you can rename your name, because some names are appearing like iPhone or something. So if you want to rename your one, so you can. And please make sure when you are talking, your video is on, because one of our participants, the video camera was a little bit tilt, and the other participants were asking if you can focus it. So please make sure when you're talking, your picture and camera is in the right position. Thank you.
So, can you hear me? Hello?
Ahmed Jamal, we can hear you. You are very clear, and your camera is at the right place. So go ahead.
No, I obviously it's a time for other people to speak and for us to listen. But I think we can start with Bari Mia first, because being the eldest brother. I don't think my sister Farida is available, and I can't see Farooq Dondi either. But if Bari Mia has something to say, then
is
let's.
Humaira there?
Humaira is also there.
So if you ask Bari Mian, then Humaira, please.
So let's ask Bari Mian then to speak.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank Mushtaq Lasharie Sahab and Shahid Nadeem Sahab and all the others for organizing this memorial for Mahmood. He was my younger brother, but a very good friend, and a man who had hidden his qualities to the extent that I had no idea about him and his achievements, what I've learned from people who have so far spoken about him. I guess it was his humility that prevented me from accessing that information. All I can say is that Mahmood Jamal, to me, was a brother and a very good friend. And we used to speak about 5-6 times a day on various subjects, including his poetry, the translations, and the thing that he was doing for my father and keeping as a chronicler of the family history, my father's papers, and a lot of things that only he could have done because of his, I guess, his abilities. He had that in him, his tenacity, his hard work, and absolute dedication to what he was doing that made him into a success, and which I will sorely miss, because he was my best friend. And a lot of things have been said about him. Sajjada Isfahani told you about the sports. And the thing I want to say is that it is surprising how much he could put in one day of paperwork, translations, poetry, working on my father's papers. I can go on and on, but I would leave with a thank you for everybody. And all I can say is that I miss him. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think I'll ask Humaira if she has anything to say. And after that, very special person to us is Rohington, her husband. If he would like to say something, because we haven't heard from him before in the other meetings, but I know how.
Okay.
I know how close he was to Rohington. Go on.
Okay, so Mahmood was my second eldest brother, Bari Mian the eldest, being the eldest, and Ahmed being the third brother. I want to thank Mushtaq Bhai and Shahid Nadeem Sahab for organizing this. And like Bari Mian, I won't take up a lot of your time, because I know lots of people have a lot more to say. He was my brother, and I didn't know a lot of things about him. I know that he was always there for me. When I first came to London in the 80s, I stayed with him, and he got me my first tube card. He helped me with lots of other practical things, and he was always there for me. And more recently, when he stayed with me, we became close. But there were so many aspects of his personality and his work that I wasn't aware of. So thank you for sharing. And, like Bari Mian, I miss him. I'll hand over to Rohinton. I think we've put him on the spot. He wasn't prepared.
But he can just say something, because it'd be nice to hear from him. I haven't heard him speak. Is he there, Rohington?
Rohinton.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on.
Well, I met Mahmood when I was welcomed into the Jamal family as Hummo's husband. And we had our wedding at Mahmood's house in Dartmouth Road, in his flat. And I remember that Mahmood had his house and heart open for the whole family all the time. When Ammi and Bhaiya Mian used to come in London, we had very great times. And then when Mahmood came and stayed with us in our house, we had some wonderful discussions and topics. Mahmood always had something witty and intelligent to say, and he's always discussing things that, you know, about from the very minutiae of cricket to world politics, and you could always spend a lot of time with him, and I have great memories of him. Apart from that, I think people have mentioned that he was a great cook, and he had some special dishes that he used to prepare, and his dal and the chicken that he used to cook. And I remember more recently he helped Amir makes lots of Shami kebabs, and he was a true multifaceted man, and we will all miss him dearly, and I will miss him. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I don't know how to proceed further because I'm not instructed to. I don't know. I can't see everything.
Let's invite Shad.
Yes, Shad. I was going to introduce Shad to say that Shad Marif is another childhood friend of Mahmood's from the Dhaka days. Himself a very, very accomplished gentleman himself, mathematician. I remember when we were kids, he used to sing. We played chess together. Shad, Mahmood and I both played with him. So he's known him probably as long, well, maybe a little less than I do, but known him for a long time. So hand him over to Shad Marif. Shad, can you hear me? Hello?
Sorry, yeah, I'll just unmute myself. Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you so much. You know, when I heard of his passing away, I broke down because of what we shared. And I just want to share with you what it is that we connected over. And it had very little to do with social life, his other aspects of his existence. So our connection, excuse me, it goes back 50 years in London, in Holland Park. And the years that followed proved to be 5 decades of sporadic discourses about a man who, like many of us, left a previous homeland and who carried a very ambiguous sense of our own self-definition. So I bonded with Mahmood subliminally, like beneath our exchange of ideas about existential and civilizational issues, we each felt the weight of our subconscious existence. We communicated when we felt this tug of something deep and heavy that was disturbing us. That's how Mahmood and I connected. So during those days, we were companions in a journey that took us through 2 major landmarks in our lives. One was 9/11, which came 33 tumultuous years after Mahmood landed in London. And 15 years later, Trump rose to shake the world. Now, I mention this because these kind of things were the context in which Mahmood and I related. After 9/11, his worldview drew him into a re-examination of his own Farangi Mahal's legacy. It was a very rich and noble one, and it was intimately linked to his faith, his belief in the hereafter and in God. But there was, I felt it, there was a pain in his belief, in his being certain. There was a lot of pain in it, and there was also a sorrow in his doubting. So these two alternated inside him, and we would discuss this, and it was a difficult place to be. But we started to get used to this kind of an exchange. And he took a lot of comfort from his deep, extensive understanding of Urdu poets and poetry. because they revealed pathways of the heart and the spirit known to his ancestors and strikingly similar to his own many hundred years later. And I think that always astonished him, it surprised him. And there was something about it that drew him to that. So he seemed to me like some kind of a pilgrim who's lost in space. He's turning time into a beautiful tapestry around which he wraps all of history. That's the kind of person he came across to me. And he was a Sufi whose self-annihilation, which I think others have mentioned, also became a spiritual affirmation of his true lost self. And to that extent, he mirrored how many Muslims like us among the diaspora had begun to feel. At least that was my sense. And Trump's era proved to be another turning point, because Mahmood had renounced all rebellion that stoked hate and bigotry. But after Trump, those ghosts rose again all around, and he could feel it, he could sense it. Even inside himself, they haunted him, and they made him angry because they appeared so morally despicable and obscene, these ghosts. And so the great divide between belief and doubt, I saw it sinking and settling down a little deeper into his psyche. And he acknowledged it with feelings that could flash like a lightning through his inner darkness, and suddenly things were revealed. They carried this inner power that flowed like a current through his poems, all his poems, or many of them.
Hello.
Mahmood's angrier verses, because he had some angry verses, they fall short of turning into slogans. And without any hate, because they didn't have it, they collapsed into something alluringly lyrical. And they comfort, a lot of people found comfort because they understood pain, and they read words that revealed an understanding of pain, of the power of dreams, and also the remorse of failure. He could turn pain into songs of the muses. That's how I experienced it. He had music in him, and they were of immense beauty and hope. It brought him some comfort and healing, but his deeper pain grew chronic and subsequently organic and metastasized into what we know. So I miss his presence a lot, because after he left, I realized what he meant to me. Because what he brought into my life was a shared sense of feeling understood, feeling valued, and feeling loved. And he knew love, all about it. He could write a book on love. So he had a knowing heart, a healing spirit, and a soul that understood much that our minds cannot quite fathom. And that's really all I have to say about Mahmood, because that's who he was to me.
Thank you, Shah. That was very, very thought-provoking and very, very interesting and very moving. I don't know if Farooq Dondi is here. If he was here, I think Mahmood would have liked him to speak, but I don't think Farooq has joined us yet. I invited somebody, Duria and Faiza Qazi, and Duria worked with us at Retake. So if she wants to say something, that would be, I can't see her. Duria?
See me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Duria and Faiza, both sisters, both friends of ours, both connected to us for many, many generations. Okay, Durya.
Okay. So, Alumia, of course, we met in Karachi University. And, but Mahmood, I met for the first time when I went to London as a very, very naive art student. And he was very kind to me and took me to introduce me to a lot of his very wacko friends whom I was speaking to Alu about. They used to meet in cafes or restaurants, and it opened up a whole new world to me. It was, taught me about politics, and a lot of people have talked about the, third world, but at that time it was the Black Phoenix, and the sort of all that was very new to me. His poetry was another thing that completely introduced me to, the simplicity of the words he used was something very surprising, because I studied literature before I studied art. And so I was used to poetry, but then there was Mahmood's disarmingly simple words that he just spun into just this perfect harmony. And people talked about music. I don't think it was even music. I think there was just balance that was very disarming. And he presented very well. And I think one of the things that always struck me about Mahmood is that for all his experience and all his knowledge, whenever you spoke to him, it was as though he'd encountered that subject for the first time. There was a sense of wonder, this sense of surprise. He engaged with the smallest things, like a family incident, or if it was something deeper about politics or art or poetry. So it was always, there's a kind of something very charming about him. Great sense of design, the cover for his Penguin book of Urdu poetry. And I'd made something quite elaborate. And then he says, no, make it a little bit simpler, which is what was eventually printed. And I still can't, like everyone else, I can't believe that he's no longer with us. The last time I met him was when he came for the screening of his film, or filming of the film, I think, the one on the on Shakespeare. And I don't know what else to say other than he had this profound effect on me. And I'm eternally grateful to him for introducing me to a whole new world, which I wouldn't have known coming from, insular life that we have here in Pakistan. So it sort of set me on track although he was not an artist, but whatever he said influenced how I looked at art henceforth and put it in a completely different context for me. So I can't really find the words to say how important an influence he was in my life.
Thank you.
And all the brothers and Humo and Amina. I've not met Farida, but all of you are wonderful people. I love the stories of Farangi Mahal that he recited to us and related to us. He was certainly a person of many. You can't say he changed many hats, because it all became one person, but an amazing person. And I think I certainly feel very deprived that I didn't spend more time with him. But I hope wherever he is, he's in good company and writing more poetry. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria. I think we've got about 8 more minutes, but I have a relative from India who's on the, who's a journalist. If she'd like to say something, that'll be great, because we haven't heard anything from that part of our family. Naz, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? She's a journalist in India, a very accomplished person, and from Rudauli Sharif, where my mother's from, the very famous Sufi shrine of Makhdoom Abdul Haq Rudauli. My grandfather from my mother's side. Okay, Naz, lovely to see you.
Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. Yes. Let me first thank you all the organizers for inviting me to say something about a man with whom we did not have very much personal interaction. He was my mother's first cousin. I think he visited India twice, if I am not wrong. Bari I can tell. But I spent a few days with him in London. I think it was in 1905.
2005.
Yeah, sorry, yes, 2005. So even with this very little interaction we had, I could sense the kind of person he was, a very sensitive person, but a very unassuming, very humble person. But the man, I could read more from his poems. Just before his, just a few months, I think, not just 1.5 months before his death, he had sent me the link of his Kindle edition of his last collection of poems, The Dream and other poems. And I was going to write something on it for my website. I could never believe that when I'd be writing, the person will be no more. So it is really unbelievable and very painful. And but today I came to know through you all so many other aspects of this wonderful man, which I had never learned before. I'm so thankful to you all for making me know more about this man, who was very dear to us all. Thank you so much, and would like to hear more from you.
Thank you, Naz.
Also, no, don't worry. I will now, if you don't mind. You want to say something yourself?
No, I was going to ask you. Is it possible for me to play that clip? Is it?
Please go ahead.
Is that clip possible? If I say share the screen, would it work?
Let's see.
Yeah, it should work. I think so. As we tried previously.
So host disable attendee screen sharing. So if you
just let me make you host for a second, and then you can do it. I think so. Just give me a. And in the meantime, I can let you know that this program is also live on a Chalta TV, which is viewable on a Facebook and YouTube and other social media channels. So you can get this program later on these platform as well.
So I'm trying to share a clip which tells you a bit about Mahmood from his early days when he read poetry at the Troubadour. It was a film I did for my film school, probably the first film I ever did. And we filmed this club, which is basically a folk club. And on Monday nights, they had poetry readings. And for 3 or 4 years, Mahmood took over the poetry club there. He was in charge of the poetry reading. And following from that clip, there's another short clip when we as a group got the British Film Institute's Award for Independent Filmmaking in 1988 or 89. And Mahmood went and accepted the award on our behalf, and which he made a very short speech. It's not a long clip. It gives you the sense of the type of person he was and how his personal and politics were wrapped up in one.
Yeah, please do share. I think so. You are a host now. You can share it. You have a full.
Can I do that now?
Yeah, you are able to do it.
Can you see it?
Yeah, you can. Could you put it on screen?
The night's blue in color. On the street, stray dogs and flashing cars.
You have to share this.
For a bit of flesh for the evening meal. And later to harder stuff and mad traveling
Ali, you have to share the screen. We can't see anything.
We can hear, we can't see. When you will press share the screen, there will be some certain things come and you can click the relevant screen where you are playing. So then it will be visible to anyone and everyone.
Oh, I did say share screen.
Yeah, and once you press the share screen, lots of 2 or 3 windows will be appear in front of you. What are all the window which are open, and you can click the relevant window where you are going to play this move.
Okay.
Yeah, now you are there. Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Oh, excellent.
Let's begin now.
Club.
By the way, this Troubadour Club is still going on, and we might hold a event there, Ahmed. It is in
Light blue in color. On the street, stray dogs and flashing cars. Out for a bit of flesh for the evening meal. And later to harder stuff and mad trampling dreams. Faces curl around the corners as they fry. Pavement heats up with the dance. Stealing from the air, the glint of razors, the tint of hair. Suddenly the heat is on. Burglars grope around for hips and thighs. Glass splinters on the face. Someone loses his eyes.
Now, Mahmood Jamal gets the Independent Film and Television Award on behalf of Retake, the first Asian film and video collective.
This morning I've been to Manchester. I'm also a poet, for poetry reading. And I went to a poetry reading of a group called the Black Arts Alliance. And I had to come here and change, and I feel I've entered a different world. And I hope that one day these two worlds will begin to meet more often.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. Beautiful.
So that was, I thought might be what useful to share.
No, thank you very much. I think he said everything in those few words.
Thank you. Now hand it over to you, Mr. Lasharie, and thank you again for giving us this opportunity. There are lots of people in the audience. I don't know, because I wasn't told to ask them, but there's some very, very close friends of ours who are from.
I will hand over to you later on.
New York, Singapore, and Dubai, if I'm not mistaken. The Jamil family, which were very close to us. So I don't know what time, what your plan is about.
Can you close the window, Ahmed Jamal, and we will invite them after 6 o'clock. We will have plenty of time them to speak.
How do I close the window? I can't.
Shahid, can you tell him how to close the window?
Stop share. Okay, stop share.
Yeah, that's it. Stop share.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Jamal Sahab. We have a lot of people. Karamat Ali from Karachi is there. Jalal Rumi is there, who attended all of Mahmood Jamal's events. And Dr. Javed Sheikh is there, who is the chairman of Urdu Markaz in UK. I know that a lot of people want to speak and they have attended many events. But let me first of all invite Hugh Godecker to sing a song for us after this beautiful sharing of Mahmood Jamal, in which he said there are 2 words. I have attended one in Manchester and I'm attending the second one in this evening. So let's keep on working to bringing those 2 words together, as Mahmood said. So I'm working very closely. Let me say it before you speak. Mahmood Jamal was very impressed with Sir Allama Iqbal. And whenever he did at least 5-6 events on Sir Allama Iqbal, and he said Allama Iqbal had 3 different periods in his life. First was love, second was revolution and democracy, and the 4th one was Sufi. And as many have said, Mahmood Jamal had, I think, many parts in his life as well, when he was a young man living in first in Lucknow, then in Dhaka, and then moving to London. So I think he became Sufi, and I think very well said in many comments. He was very passionate, very beautiful, clarity in his thoughts, tolerance, and he loved music. And I think he was always music. So can I announce here that in August, when Bari Mian is in London, and most of you are traveling, because I think in UK, the lockdown is finishing in on 21st of June, hopefully, then we will hold a public meeting in which a lot of you will be invited, but we will have some music which will be played for Mahmood Jamal. So Hugh Goodacre, who himself is academic, he teaches economics, he was a librarian, but he is a great friend of Third World Solidarity. Hugh Goodacre, are you there?
I'm here, Mushtaq. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Well, thank you, Mushtaq, and it's a great privilege for me to play a song for this wonderful poet. I just had one chance recently to interact with him, and that was with at your meeting, Mushtaq, just some months ago, and I was so sad that he passed away shortly afterwards, because what he talked about brought back many memories of that time in the early 1970s. We moved in the same circles. We must have met. My memories are all very hazy, and I regret that I didn't follow his career, because some of the poems I heard at that meeting last year were wonderful. And here's another song from that time, Bob Dylan, who actually played at the Troubadour Club at some time. Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, you'd better start swimming, or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who philosophize with your pen, keep your eyes wide, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, 'cause the wheel's still in spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming. And the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come mothers and fathers throughout the land, and don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly changing. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand, for the times they are a-changing. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't look up the hall, for he who gets hurt will be he who is stalled. There's a battle outside and it's raging. It'll soon shake your windows and rattle your doors, for the times they are a-changing. The line it is drawn, the curse it is cast, and the slow one now will later be fast, as the present now will later be fast. The order is rapidly changing, and the first one now will later be last, for the times they are a-changing.
Oh God, at last.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And I'm sure we will hear about from more speakers, including Shahid Mahmood Nadeem Saab, who was the chairman of PTV, and we all knew his struggle in the time of Zia, and we all knew about the role which he played in the society through his dramas and other activities. I'm sure Mushtaq Lasharie Saab is also there, and he will ask the next speaker to come, and we also welcome the other members who will speak shortly.
Thank you very much, Shahid Nadeem Saab. I'm very pleased that Shahid Mahmood Nadeem is there, and we will definitely ask him to speak, because he is in the similar field and he is still running a very big group, Ajoka Theatres. So Steve and Keres, are you there? Steve and Karis?
Yep,
Yes,
we're here.
Yeah, please, Steve, first you speak and then Karis, and you can also tell us about your connection with Ahmed Jamal. I know you bought the last book just when we had a launch, and then you wanted it to be signed by Mahmood Jamal, and unfortunately he's no more there. But Steve, thank you very much. Steve had a lot of connection with Mahmood Jamal, Steve Abbott, and then he will invite his partner, Miss Karis Matthews, to read a poem from that book which he bought. Steve.
Yeah, my connection with him first started. I grew up in Luton, and actually we've been friends since we were teenagers. And there's Faye. And you know, it was we.
You are muted. You are muted. Can you
got
unmute?
mute, if you
Steve?
can unmute yourself, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm unmuted. Sorry. Yes, so I met Fahim in the 70s in Luton. We were growing up together, and the community that we sort of belong to, we found a way to sort of celebrate the difference from our backgrounds and our cultures. And you know, as was said with Mahmood earlier, he loved his food, and of course, food was our breaking bread moment, where it's always been an invitation for, you know, community and friendship. But we also shared music, and as we grew older, of course, poetry. We promoted events in Luton, Fairs Ahmed Fairs, Iqbal, and it was one of those meetings which we had at Luton Hat Factory, where I started a literary festival in Luton. We were celebrating Fairs Ahmed Fairs, and at the end of it, it was such a revelation for people, including myself, that knew about Urdu poetry and Sufism and stuff, but had never really heard it from the source of people that were perhaps older than us and spent a whole life exploring Sufism and the poetry. And at the end of the event, I got the 4 learned speakers together, thanked them, and I said, you know, I wish we could bottle this event and we could give it to people that weren't here, so they could start to understand the beauty of these words, but also the unifying message and the hope that this poetry gives us, not just for the current life, but the afterlife too. And it was almost like a chorus in unison. All 4 of them came back and said, you need one book. So I bought the book, and I think I'd probably bought Mahmood's Islamic mystical poetry. I probably bought about 15 copies since that day, many years ago, to give to people as an introduction and to try and open this door of poetry as a universal language. And I remember reading Mahmood said that poetry shouldn't just be written for the page, that the life and meanings behind these great words are to be shared, and not just for some academic reason of being clever. In fact, I think he was quite outspoken about not being a fan of Western poetry, because he found it celebrated things that divided us rather than unified us. And as Mushtaq just said, we really enjoyed his poetry sessions on Zoom over the last year. And I ordered his Dream and Other Poems, and I was so excited. It arrived from Amazon. And on the same day, we had the bad news from Mushtaq that he'd passed on. So it had a special poignancy receiving the book on that day, because it's, you know, in his humble introduction to the book, I don't know if anyone's seen it, it actually says that if a poet can leave 10 great poems, then their life has been worth living. And he said, this book contains 70 poems, and if you could find 5 of them that you enjoy, then my life has been worth living, or words that effect. And it just seems such a poignant message, because, you know, what I saw of him and what I've understood, even as going through his translations of these great poets, there's a real humble but earnest and honest approach to his work, that learning, especially from his closest friends, you know, seemed to sort of permeate his life in so many different ways. And, you know, I was going to read a poem, and to prove that he's written at least one great poem in this book is the poem that's already been quoted.
but I thought the last 5 lines were such a great way to sign off in this world, but give us hope for the next, and know that he is still there, and he is still probably enjoying more time reading and exploring, and looking forward to sharing his meanings and the meanings of these great poets with us when we join him whichever paradise he's found himself in. Anyway, I'll just quote these last few lines.
Please.
So that the dark can be discovered, so that the silenced are not forgotten, let my silence be loud. And I think his silence will be loud because he's not silent. He's written great books that touched, a young white teenager in Luton, and still moves me now. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you ever so much for the welcome. I'm just going to simply read these 6 verses with the hope that Mahmood will approve. He opened many doors, and he opened the door to this poem to reveal that it's not so much about wine or spirits, but rather love. And that's what I'm hearing a lot about tonight. Mahmood was all about love. In memory of the beloved, we drank a wine. Intoxicated we were with this wine before it was created. The full moon is its cup, and it is the brightest sun. Crescent moon passes it around, and stars appear as it is diluted for the drinkers. I could never reach the tavern without its fragrance. I could not have imagined it without its sparkle and radiance. Age has purified it to its essence, like a secret to be kept in the hearts of the wise. Were it mentioned to the others of the tribe, they would be drunk and incur no sin or shame if they imbibe. And if it were to come into the mind of anyone, joy would be his, and sorrow would depart and be gone.
Thank you very much, Kerry. Before I invite my friend Karamat Ali from Karachi, Fahim, would you like to say something? Fahim Qureshi? Unmute, please.
He is muted, yeah.
Thank you, Kivale. Have you unmuted yourself, Fahim Qureshi?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Fahim? I don't think, Karamat Ali Saab, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? Karamat Ali from Karachi, who is the chief executive of PILER, Pakistan Institute of Labor, Education and Research, has met Mahmood many times. He knows the family, and he knows Bari Mian and many other friends through Art Council and many other. Karamat Ali Saab.
Thank you, Lasharie Saab. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you very much for organizing this for a great human being that Mahmood Jamal is. I'm so sorry that he is not with us anymore. I met him for the first time in 1975 when I came to England for a few weeks. And my friend Faris Kermani, who was a filmmaker, and they were good friends, and I met Mahmood through him. But that was a very short kind of time when we met. But when I came to England again during Ziaul-Haq's martial law in 1979, I was there for about a year, and we had long interactions then. Mahmood Jamal was someone who was a very distinguished person. He was a writer, a poet, a filmmaker, but more than everything else, he was a humanist. And he was a committed, progressive person who wanted to see a society which was based on social justice, on human equality, and that is what he worked for all his life. It was when we met in 1979-80, there was someone who was also on your program. I don't want to name the person, but Mahmood Jamal was deeply in love with this person. And unfortunately, that did not materialize. And he was very, very depressed about that. But he never said a negative word about the person. So that for me showed how decent human being he was. And after that, we have met so many times together, Mushtaq, together, all of us. And he always did contribute in every field of life for the betterment of human beings. And I know not many people like him in my life. I have been part of the trade union movement, the human rights movement for the past 60 years. I have not seen many people like Mahmood Jamal. And I'm so sorry that we have lost him. But I also hope that we will have more people like him who understand what he stood for and continue to work for a better world for all of us. That is what Mahmood Jamal did. And I don't want to take too much of time because there are so many other friends who will be talking about him. But I just want to tell you that in my lifetime, I have known very few people like Mahmood Jamal who were totally committed to human equality, social justice, and he could have made lot of money and all that, but he chose to take up issues for the broader human equality and social justice. And I salute him for that. And I feel privileged to have known him and have worked with him. And really, I loved him. And I hope we will have more people like him in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Saab, and thank you for remaining awake till very late. It is quite 10 to 11 in Pakistan. So can I invite Barrister Huma Price, who is also a family friend, who is a barrister and also a great friend of ours and Mahmood Jamal. Barrister Huma Price, please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Bari Mia, Allu, Humaira, everybody else. ये पहली दफा है कि मैं आप सबसे बात कर रही हूँ, and first of all, I want to offer my condolences to the whole family. It's tragic that Mahmood is gone, but what is even more tragic is that I haven't been able to hug Humaira and cry with her about it. Because although a lot of people know me as Humaira's close friend, and some people know me as part of Third World Solidarity, I actually had 3 connections with Mahmood. And the first one was at least 35, 40 years ago, when I first saw his program, Songs and Memories, when BBC was the only channel we used to watch. And it was of such high quality compared to other programs that we used to have at the time. And I remember becoming his fan and wondering, who is this Mahmood Jamal? who's gone to India, Pakistan, everywhere, and brought this variety of people together and put them on one screen for all of us living in England. Now, the funny thing is, after that, even long before I met Hummo, I met him through Third World Solidarity, because I have been a member of Third World Solidarity for longer than I have been Hummo's friend. And I knew Mahmood individually. Then I became friends with Humaira. And for a long time, I didn't even know that he was her brother, because Mahmood was such a humble person who didn't talk about his family. He didn't talk about other people. He was always so focused on issues. Whenever we talk, it'll be about something that's going on in the world. And it was actually many, many, many years later that I learned that Mahmood is my Jigri's brother. I think what I'm feeling saddest about right now is that I absolutely loved the Asia House programs that Mahmood had organized. I loved those. And he really became my teacher in those times. And he gave this environment really of Ghalib's Delhi. And I remember feeling totally comfortable wearing a gharara and going to that and attending his program. And it was sort of almost took us back in time. And his knowledge about Urdu, his knowledge about poetry, I mean, I don't even have the capacity to actually understand it. But I'm going to miss Mahmood, and I'm going to miss those programs. And they came to such a sudden end. And really, I don't know what else I can say, except that Mahmood is not somebody that I will forget, ever.
Thank you very much, Barrister Huma. And it has been mentioned many times regarding Shah said about Donald Trump and about the situation we are facing today. 9/11 was mentioned. One of our closest friends also meet later. I want to thank all team of Solidarity, Sajjad Bhatt, Naeem Ulfat, Shahid Nadeem, and many others who have helped me to organize not only this event, but every event. Can I invite Muhammad Sajjad Bhatt? It is always difficult to read a poem. I think Steve, you and Karis have done the justice, but can I ask him, the poem Tony Benn in his last diaries have published all of that poem when it was read by Mahmood Jamal in Pakistan Center Green in 2006 on May Day. Can I ask Sajjad Bhatt to read that poem, which is my favorite? All read by Mahmood Jamal, it is Sajjad Bhatt, you and me.
Thank you very much, Lasharie Saab. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very rare occasion that I have to come on DICE. It's a privilege to known by Mahmood Jamal Mian. So many memories we share, especially in smoking area when he used to ask me, Saj, come, let's have a cigarette. And that's the area I liked, because that's the area where I can interact with him one-on-one. And he marvelously used to speak with me, and great quotes he told me, like about poets. He said, Saj, poets are the unacknowledged legislature of the society. It's a great to know him. It's a great to know him. And I like to pay him my tribute by reciting his one of poem, which is You and Me. And he dedicated this poem by saying, to all my friends, past, present, and future. You want to speak of war, I want to speak of peace. You say punish, I say forgive. You speak of God's wrath, I speak of his mercy. Your Quran is a weapon, my Quran is a gift. You speak of the Muslim brotherhood, I speak of the brotherhood of man. You like to warn others. I like to welcome them. You like to speak of hell. I like to speak of heaven. You talk of lamentation. I talk of celebration. You worship the law. I worship the divine. You want silence. I want music. You want death. I want life.
Wow.
You speak of power. I speak of love. You search out of evil. I warm to the good. You dream of the sword. I sing of the rose petal. You say the world is a desert. I say the world is a garden. You prefer the plain. I prefer the adorned. You want to destroy. I want to build. You want to go back. I want to move forward. You are busy denying. I'm busy affirming. There might be one thing on which we see eye to eye. You want justice. So do I. Rest in peace, Mahmood Bhai. My condolences to Hamera Didi and Bari Mia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sajjad Bhatt Sahab. This poem was read on 6th of May 2006 in Pakistan Center, Wilson Green, and Tony Benn was the chief guest, and he has written it in his last diaries, whole poem. So thank you, Sajjad Bhatt Sahab. Dr. Javed Sheikh Sahab, would you like to say something before I invite Jalal Rumi Sahab, who have been attending it? Dr. Javed Sheikh Sahab, are you there?
You're on mute.
Dr. Sahab, you have to unmute. Shahid Nadeem Sahab, you unmute Dr. Sahab. He might not be able to unmute.
Yeah, I can ask him to unmute, but he have to unmute by himself by clicking on it. I can just invite him to unmute. Let me do it.
Dr. Javed Sheikh Sahab. Jalal Rumi Sahab, are
Yes. Yes, I think you can hear me now.
Yes, Dr. Sahab, we can hear you very well. Thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Sahab.
My first meeting with Mahmood Jamal Sahab was at Saki Farooqi's place in mid-60s. And I was extremely impressed by him at that particular time. Later on, we met Mahmood Jamal Sahab many times through Lasharie Sahab, you, and through also Shahid Ali Sayyid and other people. Each and every time when I got up from that meeting, I always learned something. And there was a lot to learn from a person like Mahmood Jamal. In 2007, I was invited by Professor Mashirul Hassan to Delhi, and they were celebrating 800 years of Rumi. And I asked Saki Farooqi Sahab that give me some hints what to say and what not to say. And he said, well, you have a best person in Mahmood Jamal, and he will tell you. And Mahmood Jamal was so helpful to me. Over the telephone, he was able to give me quite a few hints, and I was able to use them in the 2007 in Delhi seminar. Last time I met him was with you, Lasharie Sahab, in Kensington, when Iftikhar Arif was with me as well. And each and every time I learned a lot. He was a man full of, I would say, the ideas, full of narrations. He was able to narrate Iqbal at any time. He was able to narrate Ghalib at any time. He was able to narrate Faiz at any time, and even Habib Jalil at many times. And that was my full
meeting with Mahmood Jamal. I'm extremely grateful to you to be able to let me join in this the remembrance of Mahmood Jamal. And inshallah, we'll have many functions that we will have about Mahmood Jamal and his teachings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Javed Sheikh Sahab. I think one of the work which you just mentioned, he was doing translation of Ahmed Faraz, Habib Jalib, Faiz Ahmed Faiz, Ghalib. And I think they are available, Humaira ji and Ahmed Jamal. If you can look into his papers, you might find it. Even if we can't publish separate books of 4, we might be able to publish one combined book, which is of all those poems which he translated. So I will be very happy you all to continue his work for many years to come. Jalal Rumi Sahab, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Jalal Rumi Sahab used to attend. First of all, I have never asked you this question, but please introduce yourself. Where do you live? And you used to attend all the events Mahmood Jamal and myself used to do on Zoom. Say something about you, and let's keep in touch. Send me an email as well, because I would like to continue the connection and the work Mahmood Jamal has been doing. Go ahead.
Yes, Assalamu alaikum to all of you. I feel really honored that I've been asked to speak at this occasion. And my deepest and most sincere condolences to all his family and his friends. I attended all his sessions very recently. And from day one, I found him to be so knowledgeable about Farsi, about Urdu, about Arabic poets, about Sufism. I was really impressed. And in him, just going back a bit, I'm here in London, but I've lived in India, I've lived in the Middle East, I've lived in London so I have a very wide range of cultural experiences of people. And, you know, I've really enjoyed listening to him, his poetry. I mean, we have really lost a very, very knowledgeable person. And I'm just going back. I mean, he was not only his poem. I mean, as we now realize, it is not only his poems, but his so many other activities that we have, you know, you all have told us about. It's a really sincere loss to all of us. There is only one couplet from Iqbal you mentioned about Iqbal. So I just want to mention one of Iqbal's couplets, which reminds me of, gives me a link to continue and talk to about Mr. Jamal, is when Iqbal said, Sarode raft baad ayat ke na ayat, Nasim az Hijaz ayat ke na ayat, Saramad rozgare fakhire digardar raz ayat ke na ayat. So now I want to, it's a couplet by Iqbal, and I just want to focus on the last line, is where Iqbal says, we don't know when a person who could open the secrets will ever come again. Okay, and I think this was true for Iqbal, and in a similar way, it is true for Mr. Jamal, that we don't know when a person of that knowledge will be amongst us. And as a last tribute to him, I would like us all to join again together to continue the work he used to do, and to keep the community and of different thoughts all together, so that we can continue his work. Thank you very much from me.
Jalal Rumi Sahab, so kind of you, and thank you very much. You must have seen today that I have gathered people from Argentina and other academics and many others who loved actually working with Mahmood Jamal, including Karamat Ali from Karachi, and obviously the family. I can assure you, I will not stop on 23rd of December, because I remember he came to see me around 10th of December. And next week we had an event, and which you couldn't attend. It was the event of Maulana Hassan Mohani. which was led by Ahmed Bari Mian, and he was in hospital and attending it. So that was the last event he has attended, and we will continue his work. I know there are a lot of people who want to say something. So any family member from Dubai, I think there is Asma Sadiq. Would you like to say something? Asma Sadiq Sabad, unmute yourself. And Shahid Nadeem Sahab, mute. Yes, Jalal Rumi has been.
I wasn't prepared for this.
I want to invite anybody. Once everything is finished, Asma Sadiq Sahab is there. Yes.
My connection is through Humaira, as my lakhte jigar, as she is for so many. My connection to, of course, Allu, Bari Mian, because I knew them in Karachi, but Mahmood I got to meet later. And my biggest connection was when he translated Maulana Rum's Masnavi, the initial verses. And I mean, I'd always seen his very humble, very low-key, just a very beautiful presence. But a deeper connection came when I got exposed to his work. And these last Zoom sessions, which have been such a gift, I would like desperately be wanting to join everyone, and was just amazed at how Mahmood, even for the moments I got to say hello or made comments, he would be so delighted and made me feel very special and loved. And I think Mahmood had this ability to just zone in on people, and was so generous with his presence and being and loving that it feels in the whole family. I know it in Humaira, in Bari Mian and Allu and Minno, but I'm just so grateful for the work he's done and for deepening this understanding and love of love and Sufism with his humanistic, inclusive embrace. So he is missed and will be missed and remembered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ahmed Jamal Sahab, want to say something or invite anybody who you said that there are other people? Obviously, I don't know.
I can't see everybody at the moment, but
if you can change your view from on the right top hand corner to the gallery, so then you will be able to see all the participants. And the first page will have a 25 people, and you have to go to the next page if you want to see someone.
I think Munni was there, Dr. No.
Can I invite my son, G. Lasharie? He is there. He might have something to say before you find out any other. G. Lasharie, are you there? Unmute yourself. Dr. Sonia and G. Lasharie were very fond of Dr. Mahmood Jamal, and I don't know, he's in the audience, but I don't think he's able to attend. He's muted himself and he's out of screen as well. My whole family was very fond of Mahmood Jamal because they were very close. And yes, Ahmed Jamal Sahab. If there is nobody else, can I invite Sumaira to say something again? If you want to say something, Sumaira.
My sister Amina texted me, so I can't see her.
She is there. I can see her.
Amina Jamal.
Amina?
Amina from Toronto.
Is she there?
She texted me.
So, hello, I am here.
Oh,
go ahead.
Mahmood was such an influence on all of us, and I am, like many people, I have learned so much about my own brother today that I didn't know, and I feel so proud of him, but also deprived that I, didn't really make it a point to learn, to know more. He was just so modest, but Mahmood was really an intellectual influence in my life from the time that I went to university. And I remember that when he went to London, at that time, it was not possible for students to come back every year as they do now. So Mahmood came back after many years. And by then I was already in college and in Karachi. And it was so interesting because he brought me a book called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. And at that time, I just read it like a story. And those are the kind of things he used to do. He always helped us grow intellectually, but also broaden our horizons and push us to go beyond the boundaries of our current thinking and our existence. And so I'm so grateful to him, because I didn't even realize that maybe he was one of the greatest influences in my life towards becoming a sociologist, becoming an anti-racist feminist. And what can I say? Every day, not a day goes by when I don't think of something that I could just forward to him or ask him about. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, I hope his work will go on, and we'll, as a family, will try to do everything possible to make sure that we can bring more and more of his work to the public. Thank you so much, Lasharie Sahib and everybody, Shahid Nadeem Sahib, for organizing this event.
Thank you very much, Amina. Ahmed Jamal Sahib, in my life, I always say that I've got 3 teachers. First was Ali Jafar Zaidi, who taught me in Chaniod, Chang, when I was growing up, the Marxism, because he was a communist and I joined Communist Party, Maoist Party in 1967, when I was either 15-year-old or 17-year-old, because I don't know my date of birth. But the second person who I learn a lot from is Shahid Mahmood Nadeem of Ajoka Theatre. Yes. When I reached London in 1981, he was working for Amnesty International on labor issues, and he became my mentor, my everything. He is here, and he's going to speak about Mahmood Jamal. Shahid Mahmood Nadeem, you are there? He taught me as well. And then the third person whom I can say is my teacher is Mahmood Jamal. So I'm inviting Shahid Mahmood Nadeem of Ajoka Theatre to say a few words and whatever he wants to share with us about Mahmood Jamal. He is in the similar field. He was the first man from Asia. He was the first man from Asia whose stage play Bara was played in National Theatre London for 3 months regularly. And I believe until today, he is the last man as well. So Shahid Mahmood Nadeem, former DMD of PTV and other many of his roles, but my teacher, Shahid Mahmood Nadeem.
Thank you, Mushtaq, and thank you everyone for providing this opportunity to remember Mahmood and to learn more about him. Obviously, he was such a multifaceted and such a quiet person that even if you had known him for a long time, you would not really know, he would not brag about things or flash or flaunt his knowledge. It has been a shock and a loss, obviously, for the family, and remarkable family, the Farangi Mahal family, and some of them I have known, especially Allu and Mahmood, of course. And in fact, he represented the best of South Asian Muslim culture and Muslim intellectual and spiritual come secular tradition, and something which we desperately need. And Mushtaq mentioned Dara, my play about the Sufi prince Dara Shikoh. So in fact, Mahmood was from that tradition, and it was such a delight to meet him and to share your opinions and discuss things with him. And it was such a calming influence, because I had been through very turbulent times in the 80s when I ended up in prison and then in exile, and in London, where I met Mahmood. And and I was a kind of an activist and angry, not so young person at that time. And having, I could share everything with Mahmood, but somehow my nerves and my anger will kind of subside, and I'll be able to look at things in a perspective. He was such a calming influence. And yes, he had all these qualities of a Renaissance man, and as a filmmaker, as a poet, as a translator, and lately as a theater person, playwright. But I think something which was remarkable was this saintly quality in him. There was an innocence and there was a modesty, but more than that, I mean, there was a dervishi in him, which somehow he would, there were obviously there were opportunities for him in showbiz or in the literary world to promote and sell himself, but somehow he took a back seat and he just stayed on the ground and stayed sort of close to his own principles. So I think something like that, someone like that with that kind of knowledge and that kind of intellect and commitment, I think that is something we really badly need these days, wherever we are, the Muslims or South Asians. And this anger, which Shah Sahab mentioned in his very enlightening comments, I think somehow it never showed. There was always a smile on his face and a calmness like the surface of a calm sea. And we could never see what is happening inside. So I remember that, I mean, something which was in common with us, me and Mahmood, was that we were always, we were dreamers, like the last poem, and his eyes were dreamy eyes. And whenever we met, we had something to plans, although those plans never materialized, but we always discussed various projects and plays and stories and translations and cultural events. And last time when he came for some time to Pakistan in Karachi, then he didn't want to, this was for family reasons and to be with his father and to research about the family. But at the same time, he wanted to be involved. So he wanted to write a serial for some Pakistani production house. And I took him to one of the production houses. So he was always there at, planning things and never sort of staying still, always finding new things to discover and to explore. So this curiosity and this innocence and this saintliness and this calmness, despite the turbulence and despite the kind of troubled times we had been through in 80s and afterwards, I think that is something which will be, I think we will all, those who have been in touch with him will remember. And we will always feel whenever there is trouble, whenever there is anger, we will think of Mahmood and his calm exterior and his turbulent interior. So it's very difficult to say goodbyes, but I'm sure the work he has left and the memories he have left will make sure that he remains alive in our hearts and in our memories. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadeem Saab. Can I thank you for coming on this program and congratulate for your work which you are doing in Pakistan. Mahmood Jamal and myself were thinking of a story of Pakistani political activism struggle, which Lasharie was writing, who died in '93. So let's keep on working on these projects. Iftikhar Kaisar, one of your students, has also agreed with me to support us. So let's make a film of that period, which Mahmood Jamal was very keen, and he was asking me to speak to you as well. So it is good chance that we are speaking. So I think remembering somebody like Mahmood Jamal or many other people, Lasharie, I met many, and as I said, coming from Jhok Malia. By the way, my book, which was translated and written by Dr. Imdad Hussain, son of Professor Sirajuddin, who died in 2009, is coming out in next few months. So we will launch that as well. And Mahmood was very keen to read it. So let's keep on working on the principles which Mahmood stood. You have very elaborately introduced us to them. So a Sufi, a calm person, but having delivered and remain very committed to his causes. So thank you for joining us. Anybody else who want to say something? Ahmed Jamal, Humaira, Ahmed Bari, before we conclude?
I just want to thank you, Mushtaq Bhai and Shahid Nadeem Sahib again. As everyone else has said, we've learned so much about Mahmood, and hopefully we will be able to try and carry on the work as a family and a family of friends as well. Thank you.
Ahmed, unmute yourself.
No, I want to thank you for organizing this, which has been very helpful to us in many ways.
No, don't say that. It was my duty, and I've not done the duty until I really do an event where there are much more people like Anton and many others, David, who were working with you in Lahore, making your film, Rahim, which has been mentioned, Shakespeare play, which was written 400 years ago. Shad, you mentioned, I think the Muslim world today need that. We have seen in last few days what is happening in Muslim world. Look at Khashoggi's murder. Mahmood Jamal was a very committed nationalist as well, and he always stood for the people of Pakistan and a nation. Ahmed, yes.
When he passed away, unfortunately, he was working on a few. One of them was a book on 50 poems of Allama Iqbal.
Yes.
And a book on translation of Sarmad, and he was working on Maulana Mohani's diaries. We hope that we will be able to find a way of getting those published and available to people in the near future. Now that's the commitment that we have made as a family, that we will try and do as much as we can. Obviously, we cannot step into his shoes, but with the help of people like yourself and friends and well-wishers, we will try and finish some of his unfinished work. And thank you again. And
is Bari Mian there? Is he awake yet, or is he gone? Bari Mian?
I can't see him.
Sandra, do you want to say something? I've just received a message from Huma that Sandra might like to say something. Sandra, are you there? Sandra, unmute yourself. Huma, she's not there.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Sandra. Good. You are on iPhone. Okay.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear me and see me. My fingers pressed. Anyway, sorry. May I say, my apologies.
Can you open your video? Sandra, can you open your video? It is still, video is not on. And now you unmute yourself. You are muted. Shahid Nadeem, can you unmute Sandra? Yeah. Sandra, we could see you, but then you were muted. Ahmed Jamal Sahib is there. Sandra, come in. He will be the last, then we will be concluding. Yes. Sandra, come in. Put your video on and put your mute microphone as well. You know, these are the new things which we are learning, the people who are in. I've learned a lot because I do 2-3 meetings a day on Zoom. So I've become expert.
We're waiting for Sandra.
Sandra is muted, Mr. Lasharie.
Sandra, unmute yourself. Shahid Nadeem, unmute her.
I asked her to unmute. I think so. I'm sure that her video is on, and now yeah.
Now she's ready.
Yes, Sandra, thank you. You are unmuted, and you can we can listen to you. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Because I simply want to say my huge apologies. Technical issues precluded me from joining the meeting at 4:30. I joined just after 5. I understand Victoria, as we liaised in terms of what we were mutually going to be saying, and she read out my comments. I only wanted to quickly, firstly, send my condolences to the family of Mahmood and all the friends involved. And I'm very touched by the comments that everyone everywhere has made. Secondly, with regard to the work that I was doing with Mahmood about Francis Ford Coppola, I think it's very interesting, just quickly to add, which I don't think Victoria would have mentioned because I hadn't written this down to send to her. Mahmood was at the Marrakesh Film Festival in 2015, at which time Francis Ford Coppola was speaking. He spoke of the concept mercy, and this is what actually perpetuated the meetings that I had and working on RAM in this tangential capacity with Mahmood. This is where it all came from. It was that I was going to follow up through my own connections with Francis Ford Coppola on a trip to San Francisco. And I think the rest, Victoria mentioned that all our meetings went to the wind because of fires precluded me from traveling or following up on that. We were on alert at all times when I was there. In any event, the other quick point I wanted to say is that at Chatham House, I had interviewed for the Financial Times Gore Vidal and had him over from the States in behalf of Third World Solidarity. And we had a reception for Gore Vidal at Chatham House. And Mahmood very kindly videoed the interview that I did with him. It's an informal interview. I mean, it's not, it's just a video, but it's fantastic. And I think it's on YouTube somewhere. But Mahmood was an inspiration, and I'm so sorry to come in late. So much has been said, but I would just like to once again give my apologies and say really, long live Mahmood. Thank you.
Sorry, Sam.
Yes, Ahmed.
Yeah, can I just finish by saying, I'm trying to reflect the things that you have said. So finish in the words of Wordsworth. Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will not grieve, rather find strength in what remains behind.
Thank you very much, Ahmed Jamal. By the way, Gore Vidal is here with Ian Gibson, Mushtaq, Lasharie, and Tony Benn when Gore Vidal was interviewed by in Chatham House, and it was a Sandra who was inviting, and she's a founder member of Third World Solidarity, and you can't say that how old we are, but we have been working together for over 35 years. That is how much Third World Solidarity will be old on 10th of April. So we are in early 40s, both of us. Thank you very much. And Ahmed, you have really concluded by what I wanted to say. Let's continue the work of Mahmood Jamal. That is the best way to remember anyone, to continue his work. And I think we, Third World Solidarity, is doing another thing. We always do memorial meetings for people who are not there. But I have started in last 18 months a program every month, if lockdown is over, to celebrate an evening with people. I think Ayub Aulia was attending today's meeting, who is 85. There are Faizullah Khan, who is a journalist, was not here, but he's here. He's extended his apologies. So I think we will continue from June onward, celebrating evening with people who have done a lot of work in their lives. And I think that is very important, that we continue, instead of remembering people when they are no more us, but celebrating their lives when they are alive and still young. So let's continue. Ahmed Jamal, you are in our list. Bari
Lasharie Saab, can I say something? Lasharie Saab?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Lasharie Saab, my request is that we should decide on publishing a book on Mahmood Jamal's achievements, and we should have 10 to 12 people committed to write about it. I am kind of willing to do a chapter on his achievements, and if we can have people, friends, who 10 to 15 people writing articles about it, and we bring out a book on Mahmood Jamal's life. So I would like all of you to kindly consider that.
Thank you very much, Karamat Saab. We will do that. I think Ahmed Jamal, Humaira, Bari Mian, and Shahid Nadeem, and there are many more. Faris Kermani, you mentioned, you
Yeah.
couldn't address today.
I think it will be
We will do that.
very, very important and useful for the movement that we have and which Mahmood Jamal was part of, to have a book like that.
No, definitely. Karamat Saab, we will speak on it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to help and organize it. Humaira ji is there, Ahmed Jamal is there, Bari Mian, Amina ji, and Frida, Dr. Sabah, who could attend today. We will ask the family members to write one chapter, and all their friends to write their memoirs, and plus his work will continue. As I said, he wanted to make a film, and I'm committing myself with Shahid Nadeem, Iftikhar Kaisar, and yourself. We will try to make that film on the struggle of Pakistan as political workers and activists have been victimized. Can I?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was my request, that everybody thinks about it, and we should have a very, very focused kind of account of Mahmood Jamal's sort of contribution and what needs to be done to take it forward.
Thank you, definitely.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Shahid Nadeem, before I invite you to conclude and close the meeting, Humaira ji, Ahmed Jamal, anybody who is there, come in and speak if you want to say something before I invite Shahid Nadeem, solicitor, and our friend and organizer of this event, who is the, basically you can see, he has put all the Mahmood Jamal's posters behind him. I've got Naeem Ulfat. I thank Naeem Ulfat, Sajjad Bhatt, who are sitting in other room organizing this, recording it, and it will be on Facebook and a lot of other social medias, and we will continue. But I think conclusion is we will continue with Mahmood Jamal's work. In August, we will do a public meeting where we will invite hundreds of friends with speaking, and because he loved music, we will have a music, either ghazal or what he liked, and possibly Barrister Huma Prize, you will do this year theme on Mahmood Jamal when you invite us in your garden as well. So anybody want to say something?
Just can I just thank Mr. Shahid Nadeem? There are two Shahid Nadeems. Shahid Nadeem Sahib from Lahore and Shahid Nadeem Sahib was organized. And the organization, we are very grateful on behalf of the family. Thank him and for all the effort you've put in. And it just gives us comfort that there are so many people who cared about Mahmood so much that they could organize something like this, bringing people from all over the world. And there are many people who were here earlier and couldn't speak, and I do apologize to them on behalf of all of us. And once again, Mr. Lasharie, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Shahid Nadeem. We are grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Shahid Nadeem, conclude it, and then we close the meeting.
Thank you very much. I was just saying, as you mentioned, and a friend of Mahmood Jamal and the family member mentioned that he will, his work will be continued. I remember his recent meetings which I had with him, most of the which were on the Zoom, including the poem of the Faiz Ahmed Faiz and great classic Urdu ghazals, poet of Siraj Aurangabadi, Inshallah Khan, Insha Naeem Delvi, Bahadur Shah Zafar, and also Allama Iqbal's Tasveer-e-Dard, which we recently have, and Hasrat Mohani's as a freedom fighter, poet, and a Sufi. And apart from that, we had a work talk about Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi's and very which I was not aware of, Umar ibn al-Faras, the greatest Sufi poet of Arabic. So this was the first time when I come to know about that Arabic poet through Mahmood Jamal. And before, when we have his Ghazal workshop in Asiatic Society, so he did a lot of good work for us, and I'm sure that work will be continue with the help of all of his friends, family member, and Lasharie Saab is most determined to keep continue his work. So I'm also grateful to all of the participants like Naeem Ulfa Saab and Sajjad Bhatt Saab, who was working on behind. Jalal Rumi Saab, he was our companion in most of workshop Urdu literature with the Jamal Saab and Bari Mian, who was always there to add up something when Mahmood Jamal was required any help. So Bari Mian was there, all of his family member. Hamera was a regular participant, Steve, and I'm really thankful to Faiza Kazi, Victoria, Professor Victoria Goddard, Professor Sandra, Naz, Hugh Goodcare, Amina Kafale, our very long-lasting friend and a very determined and basic member of Third World Solidarity, Amina, Nazish Zaidi, Naveed, and I'm also thankful to Chalta TV, who did live all of this program on Facebook and YouTube, which is also available if any family friend want to watch, is over there. So I thankful to all of the participant and Sajid Isfani Saab, who was with us later, but he went for attend a meeting and again came back to join. So I'm thankful to all of the participants. Thank you very much, and please do keep in touch with us, with the family of Mahmood Jamal and Lasharie Saab, so we can keep continue the work which he started and which will helpful not only for us but also the member of the society. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye, all
Thank
of
you.
you. Bye-bye. Good night. See you soon.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night. Good night.
Goodbye. Sajid Isfani Saab, thank you. Sajid Saab, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.